I just want to give, here's one comment that stands out exactly what we were talking about. TYT member Cam Miller said another feel-good grift brought to you by late-stage capitalism. You can get mad about all you want. There's a reason why when people start seeing how capitalism is affecting us and they keep going, socialism, 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 socialism. That's not what we're dealing in. In fact, the socialism in the country, you guys all love, by the way. Just keep that real. Let's keep it real one more time, Dan. It's the end of the show. We've done enough. Glad to see you, brother, for our last morning version of this. Hopefully you'll be around for the afternoon. We'll still do it then. Good to see you, brother.
Great.
Thank you guys also for being here on a Thursday. We've got one more day this week. It's a Friday on the watch list, but calm down. We still got today to go. Go check out John on the Damage Report up next. We'll see you tomorrow.
Welcome back, one and all, to the Damage Report. I am John Iadarola, and I am very lucky to be joined by one of my favorite people taking time off from an ongoing tour that we'll discuss Maz Jobrani is back. Maz, how's it going?
John, how are you? Thanks for having me. Always great to see you, my friend. What is the word?
I have a lot of words. Some of them I'm not allowed to say on TV
All right.
when I think about politics.
Yeah.
But very glad to have you here to touch base, see what's going on with American politics. As I said, you've been touring recently. How's that been going?
Touring's been great. People are coming out for comedy. I was in Chicago where it was snowy. I'm not used to it. I live in LA. And then when it snows, I'm always like, where's the mountains? I want to go skiing. And they don't really have a mountain nearby. So it was a lot of cold walks from the hotel to the coffee shop, back to the hotel, and then the comedy club.
That sounds fun. Just out of curiosity, so scale of 1 to 10, or I don't know how this scale will work. How much back to before the pandemic would you say your shows or stand-up comedy are?
It's pretty back to the, I'm gonna go with like an 8.5 to a 9, simply because even last year when we were touring, there were times when there was surging of the coronavirus. So all of a sudden you'd have a sold out show, and then only 80% would show up because 20% either feared coming or they were sick. Now you get a handful that aren't showing up because they got sick. You've got a handful with masks on. But for the most part, people are out having a good time. I think people want comedy given how crazy this world is right now. My daughter said along the way, she said, my daughter's only 12. She goes, I thought the summer of 2016 was my favorite summer, but I've heard other people say it, and that she might have even referred to a song. And I said, God, I wonder what was going on summer of 2016. I go, I think that's the last summer Obama was president. And I go, I think as soon as Trump became president, he really just shook up this country and the world to a point where it just went on steroids. And so people, as you know, have gotten crazier and crazier. So that's why when you go to a comedy club, the beauty of comedy shows, comedy club, comedy theater, whatever it is that we get to point some of this stuff out. And so whether you have the crazy cousin who thinks that they were going to put a chip in him with the vaccine, COVID or whatever that is, we either talk about that and laugh about it. And I think people are ready and willing and wanting to. So it's pretty back to normal.
That's good to hear. I like it. I'm interested in getting back to some live comedy. Well, very glad to have you here, especially because we have a lot to talk about. Not only are we going to be giving an update on the current state of the protests in Iran and some of what the regime has been up to. We have some breaking news concerning Representative Ilhan Omar. We've got more besides. Alex Jones obviously has made a ton of money by being the worst. But what's the state of his life? What is his life actually like with all that money? Turns out not great. So if you're looking for some schadenfreude, stay tuned because we'll have it for you. Marjorie Greene proves that she doesn't understand anything about literally anything. And in the aftermath, although Diamond has tragically passed, Silk is back and things are even weirder than before. We'll have that for you a little bit later on. And in anticipation of that, please hit the like button and share the stream so people know that we are live. They can join us and have a little bit of fun trying to learn some stuff and push the country in the right direction. And if you want to send us any comments, tweets, or super chats, your questions, your concerns, your insightful, witty comments, or perhaps a chance to get the Blue Apron gift card of the day, you can do that and we'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Maz, are you ready to start the show?
Let's rock and roll, baby.
Let's do it. It's been a bit since we gave an update on what's going on in Iran. And thankfully, just this week, actually, the Washington Post has done an analysis of some of what is allowed to get out of the country in terms of social media activity, videos, and those sorts of things. They've looked at more than 100 videos and photographs, and we want to talk to you about the current state of the protests. I also want to give you an update on some of the violence is being handed down by the regime, both in the streets and in the form of just absolutely barbaric death penalties. So we're going to be talking about all of that and getting Maz's perspective. First, though, if you are curious about how much these protests are still going on, they have a little bit of a timeline. And it looks like, although there are still large-scale protests, it looks like generally in some of the regions, it's become sort of a thing that happens on Fridays. They are still happening in some areas. But there's also a different form of protesting that is going on. People who I think are rightly worried about being rounded up in these mass arrests, being beaten or shot in the streets or hauled off to kangaroo courts and receiving the death penalty. Some are engaging in what's being called a quieter form of rebellion. Apparently, many women are now walking outdoors without a headscarf. but not necessarily participating in the actual protests that draw the eye of the security forces more. And others are saying that one of the reasons that the protests have become a little bit less common is not only because of the wide scale violence, but also the economic troubles that are going on in the country. With some saying that people are stressed about how to feed their children. They don't have time to think about protests. Obviously, this is going to depend on the individual, depend on the group and the area and all of that. It is still going on, and we're going to get into some of what's been happening in terms of the violence from the regime. But Maz, I am curious, what you've been seeing, what you've been hearing from inside of the country in terms of that movement.
You're absolutely right. It seems like they arrested. The numbers vary because we just don't have any reliable sources coming out of the Islamic Republic. But they've arrested at least 15,000 political prisoners from the protests. That's the estimates that are coming out. I think even more than that. And as we've seen, they've executed a few, and they plan to continue to try them. A lot of these trials, all the trials have been basically sham trials, because here's the way I describe it to anybody who is sane. Even if somebody had committed an act of violence, like let's say murder, and you lived in a place where execution was one of the penalties that you could give them, that trial would take time. You need to prove that act was committed. You need to go down a path and get to that execution. But in Iran, it's been, the protests were in September. They've already executed several people in these sham trials that occur. It's like an overnight situation. It goes quickly. They say that you did. They have this term where they say you committed an act against God on earth, which is I think it's called moharebe or something. And it's just ridiculous. It really is. From an external perspective, it's ridiculous. It's also oppressive, and it's inhumane. And in the end, as somebody who's observing this to the Islamic regime, there's a dead end here. Like you're not going to win any hearts and minds this way, and you're definitely not going to appease your people. And I think the Iranian people are at a point they don't want to be appeased. They want a new regime. They want freedom. They want democracy. The Islamic regime has basically taken them hijack for 43 years, and they've oppressed them and told them what they can and cannot do. There's a lot of young people in Iran. They want their freedoms, and the Islamic regime is not hearing them. So I really do hope that this is headed towards a regime change that will bring freedom to the people of Iran.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I don't. Obviously, this is as far from our experience as possible. The idea of wanting to rule over a country in this way and just beat the population into submission. And
well, I'm sorry to interrupt. But I will actually. I would argue with that, in that Americans don't realize that the religious right is in the process of creating what the Islamic regime did. Because before 79, before the revolution of 79, Iran had its problems. The Shah had a secret police. There was a lot of issues going on. At the same time, though, it was not as oppressive as it is now. Women didn't have to cover themselves up. There wasn't an attack on women in that sense. But what happened as soon as the Islamic regime came in, they took away women's rights, then went after LGBTQ rights, and then went after other religious minorities. So already we see in America last year, when they take away a woman's right to choose, Roe versus Wade, we know that a majority of Americans support the right of a woman to choose. But a religious minority was able to pass this law, and then Clarence Thomas in the decision said, we're going after gay marriage next. So I'm here to say Iran is a cautionary tale of what could happen if you let the cuckoos continue to get their way with the things that they're doing, including things like DeSantis just this past week saying you can't teach Black history in AP classes in Florida. So there you have it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Just to clarify, I don't mean that there's no parallels. I just mean that me as a person, I cannot conceive of wanting to be a member of a regime like that, knowing the effect that you're having on all these people who are supposed to be your countrymen and women. Like, I don't understand it when it's politicians here. I I guess nice houses are nice. It's nice to have a Bentley or something, but when the only effect you have on the world is evil, I don't understand it. But that's what we're seeing being acted out. And there are still people, like I said, protesting every day. It's incredibly brave considering what's already been done. This is not hypothetical. I mean, even in the beginning of this particular wave of protests, it was a hypothetical. We'd seen state violence against protests in Iran many times before, but now you see the mass arrests, you see the summer executions, and people are still going out, and that's incredibly brave. They're facing beatings in the streets, mass arrests, in some cases, security forces just opening fire with live ammunition on protesters. We have news coming from human rights activists there says also, when and Maz alluded to this with not being able to trust the numbers of those who are arrested. What about, for instance, the number of people who've been shot by the security forces? Well, you might think, well, if they've been shot, then they're gonna want people to know that. Yeah, but do they? Like the human rights activists are saying, they get shot, they don't go to the hospital because they're worried that if they do, the security forces will come and will arrest them. Like, think about the effect that has on a population, believing that even if they are brutalized by the regime, they have to keep it to themselves, because then if they don't, then the job might be finished. And you've got at least 20,000 people having been detained. I mean, God only knows how representative that actually is. But I also wanted to talk about one of the topics that Maz raised. We have a particular one of the cases that resulted in a death sentence being carried out. The defendant, Mohammed Mehdi Karami, had less than 15 minutes to plead his case. He was killed by the regime. He had 15 minutes. It's so devastating. He was a 22-year-old karate champion, was hanged back on the 7th of last month. He'd been held for slightly more than 2 months, charged with corruption on earth. Okay, he was given a lawyer chosen by the judiciary, so fair trial and all that. They chose the lawyer he would have. 4 of his co-defendants at that point were also sentenced to death. Some children and 8 other adults were handed lengthy jail terms. So children will be spending long periods of time in jail for what they did. And also, by the way, as devastating as all of that is, they also say that they were tortured into making confessions of the ridiculous charges that they admitted to. By the way, when it comes to Mohammed Mehdi Karami, also 15 minutes to plead the case, ends up being hung, was tortured. Also told his family during a meeting in prison, he'd been beaten unconscious by guards. The guards at one point had assumed that he was dead, and they dumped his body in a remote area. But as they left, they realized that he was in fact still alive. They thought he was dead. That's how close to death they beat him. He also told his family that security agents had touched his genitals every day and threatened to rape him during interrogations, just to give you an idea of some of the torture that was used by the regime to get their confession in one of these cases. So, like, when you hear stories like we need to publicize stories like this, people need to understand what's going on there. But then you think about, like, if you're a person in Iran, how terrified you would be to protest, knowing that you could be the next person.
It's a sick mafia regime. I appreciate you guys talking about it because, again, you're right. We're so far removed in America that we don't know. But think about this. Most countries, like you just said, that gentleman that was executed, he was a karate champion. They've arrested a lot of very, very smart and students from top universities, a lot of established people. Most countries celebrate their best and brightest. The Islamic regime is executing their best and brightest. So that just goes to show you how blinded they are by this, their desire to maintain their power. And they're not a regime for the people. They are a regime that is corrupt. They're known that a lot of the leaders have money that they've funneled out. They have relatives that they've sent to the West who are living lives in the Western style. So it really is. I think the Iranians within Iran and the Iranians outside Iran are sick and tired of this regime. Matter of fact, you were talking about protests. February 11th, there's going to be big protests outside of Iran. I'm not sure if it'll happen inside as well, but outside of Iran, there's mass protests that are planned around the world. And if people are in Los Angeles, it's going to be at noon in Pershing Square. Hopefully people can join. Other things people can do is there's a movement right now online to free this rapper named Tumaj Salehi, free Tumaj. He's a political prisoner who, as a matter of fact, I participated in the movement. I did one of these videos. I just happen to have this here. People can take that hashtag free Tumaj and post it. That's one of the movements. And the other movement is stop executions in Iran. Hashtag stop executions in Iran. Just take a picture with the hashtag, post it. We're trying to get more and more people to be aware of these things so that maybe governments from the outside can put more and more pressure on Iran. Somebody had pointed out, they said if there were a way to put some sort of a penalty on funds that the Iranian regime has outside of Iran, and to say every time you execute somebody, we're going to take away $1 million or $2 million or whatever that is.
Yeah.
That would move something. I don't know if that's doable legally, but we need to put pressure on these people, and so that's some of the things that people that are watching this can do, is just to get the word out.
I mean, it definitely seems possible. They've done sanctions for other things. Why not? In some cases, for human rights concerns, it makes sense to me. And thank you for letting people know about both those movements as well as the protests. Hopefully, a bunch of people can participate, and to the extent that people inside of Iran can know that that's happening, because of course multiple social media networks are still banned or blocked. I'm sure that would probably be well received. Now, with that said, I want to turn to another. This is just so devastating. Again, like there have been so many of these cases along the way. Let's go to this second video that we have. What you're seeing in this video is two Iranians, young couple, dancing in a video that they uploaded to social media. They were apparently they're engaged, and they're just having a lovely night, dancing, and they wanted to share the love that they feel with their followers. And apparently they have a lot of followers, a couple million followers actually on social media, especially on Instagram. That video was all that it took for the Iranian regime to sentence each of them to 10 years in prison for the dancing that they did. They were convicted of promoting corruption and prostitution, colluding against national security, and propaganda against the establishment. And I was looking at this, and we're told that dancing is not illegal according to Iran's penal code, but women dancing in public, particularly with men, is. And I don't want to get into a big a terminology thing or whatever, but that's what illegal means when you can't do it in public, and so it looks like it's illegal. So the couple in no way implied that their dancing had anything to do with the protests that were ongoing at the same time. It would be insane to convict them of anything, even if they had done that. And that is clearly what Iran is trying to make you think, is that this is in some way connected to those protests. There's no sign of that. 10 years, 6 months each in prison for a less than 20-second clip of them dancing together, Maz. It's just insane.
It really is. It goes back to what I was saying. It's an attempt to control women. It's what we see in Afghanistan when they say women are no longer allowed to go to school again. As Westerners, as Americans, we should all be appalled. We should all be supporting these people in Iran any way we can, because it is. If you're someone who sees the value in women's rights, because women's rights is human rights. Because if you turn a blind eye to it and say, well, whatever, that's the culture, let them do what they want to do. Well, they're coming after you next, buddy. Wait till you put out a video that they don't like. They're coming after you. And on the regime side, it really is blindsided, because it really is blind, I should say, because no matter what they do, the numbers are against them. There's a majority of youth in Iran. That youth in Iran is sick of this regime. They want their freedoms. They want to be able to dance in public without being arrested for it. And so whether it's this year or in 5 years or in 10 years, the end has to come, because you will be outnumbered, and there's nothing you can do, no matter how much of the military, the police they have. It's just the end is coming. So it's heartbreaking for these young people. As someone who's got kids, I can't even imagine. And then you see, like you said, these two are arrested for dancing in the streets. There was a young girl named Neda Shakarami, 16 years old. She went to a protest, they shot her. Another young man named Kian Pir Falak, he was in a car going past some protest, they shot him. And they're unapologetic. That's how this all started out. This started out by killing Mahsa Amini and then not admitting to the fact that they killed her, a young 22-year-old woman from the Kurdish region of Iran, whose hair was out of her hijab just a little bit. You would think that they could have gone up to her and said, hey, could you just cover that up? If that really is your laws, which by the way, are crazy in itself. But there was other ways to solve it. And even if they went to the extent of having killed her, then admit it and punish those who did the crime. And yet, instead, they turned around and said, "Oh, yeah, Masa Amini died of natural causes while they were in their custody." It's all a load of crap, and it really just upsets people. And again, you sit there and you go, "What can I do?" What you can do is go to protest, get the word out, write your Congress people. What we can do from the outside as Americans is put more and more pressure on America now. I used to think that diplomacy was possible. It's not. Barack Obama actually came back in an interview that he did recently, and he said, looking back at the nuclear deal, he said, as a country that is supposed to be a leader in human rights, we can't ignore that when we're making these deals. And so we need to lead with that. So if there's a country that is committing such atrocious human rights violations, we can't try to have a deal with them of any sort. And we really need to put the pressure on to change this regime.
Yeah, they desperately need help, and this is not sustainable. It's just utter madness. That couple didn't even have lawyers, by the way.
Yeah, of course
no
not.
Chance whatsoever.
Yeah, why would they?
If they had a lawyer,
right?
Yeah, no, just I'm not going to go into a whole big thing about it, but this is why I continue to say that, like, of all of the individual things threatening human potential, the potential of our society and of our civilization, male weakness is the number one thing. It leads to so much of this. They're just frail, broken minds. Their emotional, like, lashing out, their need to try to control things, to feel briefly the power they think they should have, gets into everything and ruins everything. With that said, we're gonna take our first break. When we come back, perhaps we'll have another example of that after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there. I see Pitchfork's Dragon in the chat says, anyone else's stomach hurt from this story? My stomach is constantly hurt. One would think from all of the stomach pain from covering the news over the years, I would have abs by now, but that has not yet manifested. In any event, let's talk about what's going on out there. I saw that Gomez had suggested TYT should really have Ariana Jasmine on to talk about Iran. She's Iranian American and has faced the morality police. I'm gonna have to look into her, but I like the idea of that. Thank you for your suggestions. P. Kennedy had asked, do you ever do stand up in St. Louis? My wife and I work at Helium Comedy Club there.
I have never done St. Louis, but hey, there's got to be a first time, and why not at the Helium Comedy Club?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, Conservative Wambulance says, so John, I know somebody showed you that Wall Street Journal article about the fungus yesterday. What do you think? Asking for the human race. We're probably going to talk about it on tomorrow's show because I have a related story, but yeah, why not? Yeah, everything is gonna get worse as the climate gets worse. So eventually, fungus will take over our brains. I have no doubt. For some people, it might be an improvement. Anyway, at least something would be in charge up there. Okay, let's see. Oh, I saw this. This was a super chat yesterday for Prescott Small. I wanted to set aside. It said, idea, 420 is a Thursday this year. How about using the after show to tell your funniest pot-related stories? Talk about favorite strains and things to do while stoned. Thinking out loud. I like that idea. We might, it's a Thursday. If it was a Friday, I think Brett would really be into that. I will think about it. Thank you for the concept. I like it. Eric the Red says, what is the word? Thoth, the Egyptian god of writing. Proof that the bird is the word. Oh God. Okay, thank you, Eric. I don't have any better words for you now. Textan says, oh no, Maz moved the white suit portrait. I loved it. People are noticing your background over there.
There you go.
Okay. Next TYT reporter says 15 minutes tells me no matter what he said, they weren't going to listen. 100%. There was literally nothing that he could have said that would have resulted in anything other than that death penalty. Devastating. Bruce Allen Ross became a member on YouTube. Thank you for that. The Ash Dragon's been one for 1 full year and says, hey, a year with the Dragons. Thanks, John, and the team behind the scenes. Thank you, Ash Dragon. We appreciate you being with us. And then what I would consider like the membership gifting Bash brothers, I guess. Moondragon and River Rose. I don't know if they're both brothers, but Moondragon and River Rose gifting 5 memberships each. So regularly do, always working to make our community as inviting and welcoming as possible. Thank you, Moondragon. Thank you, River Rose. Okay, let's see. Amanda Oken says in a super chat saying 2016 was my favorite summer. Cavs win down from a 3-1 lead. Cleveland against the world. So I don't know if it was your favorite summer because of sports stuff, but it was for them.
It was my daughters. I don't remember. I was probably, Oh,
I see. Yeah.
What, I was drunk. It was the summer. I'm drinking.
Do you have a standout summer?
I mean, you got to go back to the teenage years when you were, like 1989 or 88 or something, when you're just hanging out. You got nothing to do. You've seen every movie that's out there. Nice. Had my girlfriend. I mean, life was easy. Pops would give me the cash. We'd go out. Come on.
That sounds pretty good. I'd go for that. Okay, one more message. I think George Krakowski sent in a super chat. Thank you, John, for mentioning Wednesday. I binged it and loved it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. Can't wait for the second season. Okay, oh God, we got DeJora has been with us for 26 months over on Twitch. Thank you. Regular Mole Rat Dragon's been here for 26 as well. That is a mouthful of a name. Thank you, Regular Mole Rat Dragon. Okay, lots more news to get to. Don't go anywhere. Maz and I will be back. Okay, everybody. Looks like we have one more recommendation for a guest. Anissa Amani, Iranian comedian whose parents escaped to Germany for political reasons. Is in the political world. Maz, are you familiar?
Anissa is a friend of mine. She lives in Germany. I was actually on tour in Europe with her recently. She's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the good news is that in the Iranian diaspora, we do have a lot of very well-spoken people who you guys can have on, and I can get you a list at some point. But there's,
that would be great, actually.
Yeah, a lot of Iranians have stepped up and are involved, because I think from the outside we feel we need to amplify the voice of those inside Iran. So yeah, I get you that list.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's really helpful when notable comedians or actors and actresses speak up and make sure that people pay attention to it. And obviously there's a risk to doing that, and so it's brave that they're using their platform for that. Okay, everybody, let's jump into other news. Well, the Republicans got what they wanted as of just this morning, and this is relatively breaking news. Representative Ilhan Omar has been kicked off of the House Foreign Affairs Committee for, well, they would say a whole bunch of BS reasons. No, she's a Muslim, she's a woman of color. Those are your reasons. She is notable and progressive, and thus they hate her. And because the Democrats were almost forced to take people like Paul Gosar and Marjorie Greene off of their committees, the clock was ticking for the revenge. And so Ilhan Omar has been kicked off. There had been some Republicans, including Nancy Mace and Victoria Spartz, who had said they weren't gonna do it. Actually, Nancy Mace, I think just yesterday, said, there is nothing that Kevin McCarthy can say to me that will get me to vote for this, except for the thing that he apparently said to her because she voted for it. He came up with this BS thing about, okay, so we'll kick her off now, and then in the future, we're gonna have some sort of process where there will be guidelines. And all of these people who are like, no, this is absolute BS. You're not kicking her off because you don't like a tweet that she sent literally 4 years ago. Now said, oh, in the future there will be a process. Okay, well then I guess I'm okay with it. And so all of those Republicans that we gave some preemptive credit to deserved literally none of it. One person, Republican Representative Dave Joyce, voted present. So that's what passes for bravery, I guess, on the right. All the Democrats, thankfully, supported Representative Omar and voted her keep her on that. But no, she has been taken off of it. She gave a speech stressing, her origins as a migrant from Africa. Says there is an idea out there that I cannot have objective decision making because of who I am, where I come from, and my perspective. My leadership and voice will not be diminished if I am not on this committee for one term. And I already preemptively look forward to her being returned to that committee when something resembling sanity comes back to DC. Maz, what do you think about this?
Well, the clown show has started. I think every session in Congress should start with that theme. Because it really is just a joke. Again, listen, let me first start out by saying, I don't know Ilhan Omar's qualifications to be on this committee, but I'm guessing that she's more qualified to be on a committee than, let's say, Marjorie Taylor Greene or Jim Jordan or Paul Gosar or
She
Chip
might be
Roy.
onto something.
Yeah, just go down the line. I mean, these people are goofballs, total goofballs, and it's so flagrant and obvious why, as you said, Ilhan Omar has been targeted. Again, maybe she said things in the past that she shouldn't have said, and there's ways to reprimand Congress members for that. But to go after her the way they did, clearly it's a revenge hit for Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gosar being kicked off their committees for, by the way, they were talking about violence against other members of Congress, which I think is definitely a line you should not cross and you should get kicked off the committee for. They're also really stupid. So they probably shouldn't have been on committees in the first place. And they're really, really stupid. So they shouldn't have been in Congress in the first place. But now I'm starting to think you can be really stupid and be in Congress. I mean, if nothing else, this Republican class gives us hope. You can be stupid, you can lie like George Santos, lie and be stupid. It's just ridiculous. And by the way, again, how short-sighted they are, because Kevin McCarthy too is not the smartest person out there. It's very short-sighted because now the Democrats can come back and say, "Oh, you guys said something we didn't like, so we're going to kick you off committees." I mean, and this is why nothing ever gets done in Congress, because now it's become this crazy, like it's closer to the World Wrestling Federation than a body of politics that's supposed to move us forward.
Yeah. Well, I will say, as someone who just recently started watching wrestling again, do not besmirch the WWE by comparing it to that den of villainy in Congress.
Yeah.
Yes. By the way, I see Diana Vaccarelli sent us a super chat. Thank you, Diana, saying AOC had a powerful speech on the floor today. I recommend you watch. We will, and we'll almost certainly talk about it because she spoke out in defense of Representative Omar. This is just an Islamophobic racist attack against a prominent woman of color. That's all it is. It is something that they are giving to their white conservative audience and said, look, we have taken this person out. You hate them. You want them to be ejected from the country, perhaps killed. We can't get that yet. But what we can do is we can take her off the committee. And so that's what they've done. It is just an insane partisan act of revenge. That's it. And also an incredibly hypocritical one, as we'll get to in a little bit. But first, since I'm alluding to the fact that they would love far more than to just take her off of the committee, I want to provide some evidence of that. Just in advance of being taken off of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, earlier today, Representative Ilhan Omar shared just one of the most recent vile death threats that had been launched against her. Listen to this.
As you put a bullet in your head and get the f out of my country, you sucking bitch. I'll kill you.
To review, press 0. To reply, press 1.
So obviously there's some of that is so terrible that we had to bleep it out, but the stuff that is left is pretty terrible. That is a person who would love nothing more than to murder Representative Ilhan Omar. I don't know how notable this one individual is in comparison to the constant death threats that she and other members of Congress, particularly women of color, receive on a daily basis. But imagine that on this same day that they are delivering a win to that guy is having a great day today because Ilhan Omar got taken off of her committee. His side feels like they're winning. And Kevin McCarthy and all those other Republicans, some of whom are obviously crazy, some who would try to pretend that they're rational, they care far more about the interests of that prospective assassin than they do regular people. And so Ilhan Omar put out a comment with that saying, this is one example of a death threat that came into my office this week. These threats increase whenever Republicans put a target on my back. They can continue to target me, but they will never stop me for fighting for a more just world. By the way, as horrific as this is to listen to, I share it because the Republican Party and the public need to know that there is a very real human cost to their continued targeting of women of color, not just to me, but to those who share my identities. And it is an intentional one. They are not unaware that there are more threats when they do this. They are fully aware of that. That is the main reason that they do it. It is to drive hatred, fear, and xenophobia against whoever. It could be trans teens one day, it could be Ilhan Omar the next day. And this is all obviously done in service to the wealthiest and most powerful people in this country. Maz, what do you make of that? I know it was obviously hard to listen to.
Yeah, listen, this again, not to draw too many parallels, but this reminds me of the people who are extremists in the Islamic regime, the people who are running the Islamic regime. In their eyes, they're doing the right thing because they are doing what God wants them to do. And so you got people like this guy who's threatening Ilhan Omar, or you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others who really believe in this, in their cause. They really think that the world is going communist and the Democrats are running this country to the ground, and that Jesus needs to come back, and gays are bad, and people of color and immigrants are bad. I mean, that's how they see the world. And so you can't have a rational conversation with these members of Congress who see the world like that. And the hope is, you go, how do we fix this? I mean, the hope really would have been if they weren't gerrymandering or other ways to get some of these really far extremist members into Congress, and you had rational people in Congress, then you could have a conversation. And that conversation would be, listen, you and I can disagree on certain policies, but we need to both agree that we need to defend each other's safety, that there's a line that we draw, that we go, no, this is violence, you can't be doing this. And guys like McCarthy and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gosar, everybody else who had it out for Ilhan Omar, will just turn a blind eye to threats like this, and they'll say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do here. So that's how January 6th happens. They didn't turn around. Every member of Congress after January 6th should have said, this was wrong, Trump is a criminal, and we need to weed this out of our party. They did not do that. So similarly, when threats like this are shown to the world, these people aren't rational. They are so power hungry, and they think that they're doing God's work. So they just turn a blind eye to crazy people like this. We've seen this in sports. If two teams oppose each other, but the fans of the home team starts saying or doing something to the opposing team, a lot of times the home team players would turn around and yell at their fans and say, this is not right. We are brothers or sisters in this activity and this sport, and we are sane, which is how the Congress should work. But it doesn't, and it's led by a bunch of cowards, and they're gonna turn a blind eye to this guy, and eventually something really bad is going to happen. It already has January 6th, but it's gonna happen again.
Yeah, and bear in mind Paul Pelosi, the attack that a guy tried to murder Nancy Pelosi. That's what he went there to do. He almost murdered her husband, and they obviously haven't learned anything from that. They have no interest in learning anything from that. They are encouraging those same sorts of people. Now, let's turn from the politicians encouraging extremism, radicalism, to one of the people in media who, until Tucker Carlson stole his whole shtick, was one of the main people doing this. Alex Jones has gotten a lot of viewers and a lot of money by spreading absolutely insane conspiracy theories and pretending that mass shootings are fake, and sending his audience to hound those people who've lost relatives in these mass shootings across the country. He's been a truly terrible person. And he's used that, the ad revenue and selling people, powdered gorilla bones and boner pills and stuff like that, to become incredibly wealthy. And from the outside looking in, it can be easy to be really angry about the fact that being so unrepentantly awful has been so lucrative to him. And it doesn't seem fair that that should work. And I still feel that. I think that's 100% true. But I also want to reassure you that simply because they've been able to profit so much from spreading hatred and fear and suspicion and racism and all that into the world, that doesn't mean that they're really benefiting that much. There are these text messages that came out as a result of the Sandy Hook lawsuit between Alex Jones and his father, his ex-wife, revealing that he really doesn't seem to have a good, happy life. And honestly, I couldn't wish a horrible existence on anyone else more than on Alex Jones. And so I want to read some of these for you so that you'll get an idea of what's going on in his head. Not too much of it, that could drive you insane as well. But he sent these text messages to his father saying about the lawsuit, saying it's no big deal. I get notice via media, so I just need to start shutting down. I always get my legal news a few weeks late via news. I just need to love it. It is very scary to almost never, to learn about stuff from yourselves. If very disconcerting, and nothing can stop it, it seems. It's like gravity, a black hole. Those are messages he sent to his dad. And as insane and so deeply weird as all of what you just saw is, dad never even responded. Like his insane, deranged, dangerous son is saying that he feels so disconnected from everything because he's insane, that he feels like he exists in a black hole. And the dad sees that. It's like, no, I'm good. I wouldn't wish that on almost anyone. But Alex Jones, I think if anyone has worked to deserve it, you might think that I'm a bad person. Feel free, we can disagree on that. But he's a terrible person who's ruined many people's lives, and he's done it intentionally, repeatedly, for a massive amount of profit. So the idea that he feels isolated and like he exists in a black hole, that is second best to him actually being cast into a black hole. So I'll take that for now. What do you think, Maz? Am I a bad person?
No, you said, is it Schadenfreude? How do you pronounce that word?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Taking pleasure in the displeasure of others or the pain of others.
Yeah, Schadenfreude. This has been a good year of Schadenfreude because originally my first, I'd never really used Schadenfreude in a sentence until Kevin McCarthy kept getting voted down, and it was so enjoyable to watch. So that was my first dose of Schadenfreude. Now watching George Santos be hounded is giving me a lot of Schadenfreude, and now seeing these texts by Alex Jones is very Schadenfreudy. It's
Schadenfreudish.
Schadenfreudish. This guy is in a normal world. He clearly has drug and alcohol issues. I don't know what the drugs are. I don't know if it's Adderall. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Coke. I don't know exactly what it is. In the article, it talked about some of the people working with him said he was drinking from 10 a.m. on.
Yep.
A good person, not a good person, but a person, let's just say a person that leading down a healthy path would recognize this, and they would go to rehab and they would work on it and hopefully lead to a better and healthier future. This guy's just leaned into whatever hole he's in. I mean, look at it. I don't know if you can put a picture of him up side by side. I'm 50. I'm no young duckling. I'm no beauty. I'm no beauty. But you look at him. I'm no spring chicken. But you look at him, and he looks like that's 48. I'm 2 years older than that guy. He looks like he's 68. He's very unhealthy, and it's sad you're right. If it weren't for all of the horrible, horrific pain that he caused the families of Sandy Hook and others, then one would really shed a tear for this guy. But at this point, you're going, gosh, I can't shed a tear for you because you're such a horrible, horrible human being. Now, if he did a complete 180 and somehow started doing Habitat for Humanity or something and went clean, and it's not going to happen. But this just shows this again. Listen, the problem here is not Alex Jones as much as it is our society. Again, there are people that are willing to listen to this guy, and the crazier stuff he says, the more they lean into it, and they don't step. It's very cultish. They don't step back and go, this guy's out of his mind. But that's what's heartbreaking here in my mind with this guy is that there's people that you and I probably know that probably have started listening to guys like this, and so, gosh, it's funny to watch how he talks to himself in those texts. And by the way, the father, I've had people in my life who have had addiction issues, and one of the things they tell you is to don't engage when the person is under the influence. So that's probably what was going on with the dad. The dad was probably going, he's on a bender. I'm just going to let him talk to himself.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll go from there.
Maybe. No, he could try to do the Jimmy Carter thing and go around doing good stuff. I kind of doubt he's going to do that. I think he's going to double down on being the absolute worst. I'm going to leave you with this. And by the way, you can see all these text messages online. There's some great stuff with his ex-wife or whatever, who, by the way, he apparently hired security services to track multiple times because he was so terrified that she was cheating on him. Again, my reference to male weakness. Bear in mind, while he was paying security services to track her to stop her from cheating on him, he was cheating on her. So fun, weird little hypocrisy there. And there's all these sources inside of InfoWars and the security staff that are just giving quotes like they think of him as a big baby. He's having rage fits and hissy fits about literally nothing. He's manic in every sense of the word. He, in his family, in his relationships, and amongst his employees, nobody likes him. Nobody has any respect for him. And again, I couldn't put it on anyone worse, more deserving, I should say. By the way, people are correcting the pronunciation. Yeah, I am technically aware that it's Schadenfreude. I'm not German. I don't speak the language, so I apologize for the pronunciation issues. I am German though.
You gotta do it, right? You gotta do Schadenfreude. You gotta do the Schadenfreude. That's how they pronounce it.
If I angered the Germans, I can only imagine what that's gonna do. But we're gonna see anyway. We got a lot more news to get to, everyone. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this. Okay, everybody, we got a lot of comments coming in. It's not spelled this way, but it looks like Shizer. That's a damn dirty lie, Maz. You're beautiful inside and out. So the supporters are coming out for that. Thank you, Kay Cantlay, for your first super chat. There's no message there, but we still appreciate the support. Thank you so much for sending that. Much appreciated. May Money into building. Hey, May Money says these people are getting paid doing nothing. I got fired for no reason, and they wrote my name down wrong on my final check. This hurts me. She worked hella hard to get where she is. For Ilhan, that she worked hella hard to get where she is. Disrespect, 100%. Yeah. The idea that Marjorie Greene is making like the better part of $200,000 a year, doing absolutely nothing by design, delivering nothing for her constituents, insane. Anyway, Utter Bullspit says in super chat that WWE is a horrible and troublesome company. John, look into it. Thank you, Utter Bullspit. No, I'm familiar with a lot of the issues with WWE. By the way, John Oliver a year or two ago did a great episode on it, and I'm aware that Vince McMahon is absolute garbage. I'm not interested in them or the company or their management. I just like it because some of the talent, especially the women superstars, are amazing athletes and performers. That's what I'm into, not the corporate side of the management. RKNG1 Garcia says something going on with YouTube notifications. I went through and re-rang the bell, not receiving any alerts for TYT programs. Oh geez, look, there's constantly problems with the notifications, so I apologize for all of that. It is already annoying enough when people like me ask you to ring the bell in the first place. The idea that you might have to do it again sucks. But if you are the sort of person that would very much like to make sure that you get notifications, it might be worth a try going and checking it. Mina, the Singing Dragon, sent in a super chat pointing out Chris Rufo being appointed to the new College of Florida in Sarasota. So thank you, Mina. I did actually, I covered that with Anna on the second hour of the Young Turks yesterday. But thank you for raising that to me. We really appreciate, when people let us know about important stories, and also, as we were alluding to before, good guests that we could potentially have. And in fact, to reinforce that, I decided, assuming that Kijan hasn't already gotten a Blue Apron gift card, we're gonna find out. So Kijan had raised Anissa money to us. I am always looking for great people, especially people outside of the US, to feature on the show. And so if this encourages more of that, you just got a Blue Apron gift card. So send a message to rewards@tyt.com. Say your first, last name, and your handle, and they will take care of it. So thank you as always. We have an awesome audience. We constantly say that we do this together. We do, and we want to continue to do this actually together. Okay, Galfar is saying AEW is 10 times better than WWE, especially when it comes to the actual wrestling. AEW has openly gay and trans athletes also. Galfar, I love it, and I watch a little bit of AEW as well. So I'm not just on the one or whatever, but thank you for spotlighting that. Michael Norris says, great to see Maz again. When can we expect to see you in Australia, particularly Perth? How about that awesome Chris Walken impression again?
Oh, that's funny. I'll be in Australia in July.
Really?
We'll be in Perth. I'll be announcing that soon. Really? So yeah, Aussie, oi. I'll be there.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Yeah. I've never been to Australia. That's definitely in like the top 5 places I'd like to go.
Beautiful. You gotta go. It's a big country. You got to spend some time. Spend a week or two down there. It's really amazing. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a war going on in the chat. Hold on. John Wick says AEW was fire last night. Oh no, the WWE and AEW people are gonna fight each other. I am curious about AEW. I'm a fan of Saraya and all that. We'll see.
Hilarious.
Anyway, Punk Jazz Dragons been with us on Twitch for 31 months. Thank you for sticking with us for so long, getting towards that 3-year mark. Okay, there's a lot of other messages. We will get to as many as we can, but first, more news. Okay, oh my God, there's so much to cover. Let's jump into this.
Daro, can you tell me how much COVID cash went to CRT?
CRT.
Critical race theory in education. It's a racist curriculum used to teach children that somehow their white skin is not equal to black skin and other things in education.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's stupid. That's nonsense. The idea that she is in a committee, let alone there to question Jean Dodaro, the Comptroller General of the US and head of the GAO, is ridiculous. The idea that she can simply assert objectively false things about a graduate curriculum is absolutely insane. But as bad as all of that is, it actually gets worse because bear in mind, she doesn't know anything about literally anything. And that when you talk constantly with a camera in front of you can come out. So take a look at what happened when she continued.
No, I do not know that, but I do know that there's provisions that the federal funds generally are not used, are supposed to be used for curriculum.
Oh,
That's a state.
Oh, Mr. Dodaro, I have to tell you, in Illinois, they received $5.1 billion at an elementary school there that used it for equity and diversity. So it's being used for these things.
Okay, so that's about the worst use of your time in a committee like that. So she asks a question of an actual expert. He responds with, like, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't seem to know what you're talking about. And then we get to, oh, she wasn't really asking him a question. She wanted to cite a statistic, which would be kind of annoying rhetorically if the statistic was true. But I'm gonna blow your mind right now. You might be thinking, oh, $5.1 billion for CRT at one elementary school in Illinois? Would you believe that that isn't true? Because we looked into it. Turns out, as crazy as it is, that's not actually true. They didn't actually give one school in Illinois $5.1 billion to teach people that their white skin isn't as good as black skin or whatever. You know what because obviously there was a lot of criticism towards her because that's absurd and buffoonish. And so the right has rallied and tried to figure out, okay, how do we defend this? So what they've come up with is, there was $5.1 billion that went to all primary and secondary education in Illinois. And some of that cash they have no idea what percentage, might have gone towards the general topic of diversity and inclusion. Because in the charter of schools, that's a thing that they're supposed to pay attention to. So all of the schools got some money. And maybe some, we have no idea how much or if any went specifically to that, but even that wouldn't be CRT. This is so wildly far from the claim that she's making. But these right wingers, because they've decided that she's their champion, have to twist themselves into pretzels to try to make sense of the nonsense that she barfs out into these committee hearings. Maz, what do you think?
Well, Professor Greene really outdid herself this time. This shows you what happens when you get someone who's really not qualified to be in this position, She really is, she's really dumb and she's got a staff, and you would think somebody in the staff would at least, if I'm her, and I'm not saying I'm some intellectual, but at least I would hire some people that were good at doing research and really getting me the facts so that when I'm in front of these cameras, I could really drop knowledge and be factual. Now, the problem that we're living in right now is facts don't matter for this party. And so she says what she wants. Her constituents will say, oh, good, you went after CRT. They don't even know what CRT is. As you said, they don't know that it's a graduate level of courses that had started that was talking about systemic racism in this country. For some reason, there's some people in America who don't want to know the bad news. These are people who only want to go to comedies, and they're like, don't show me any dramas. And you're like, but life is filled with drama. And they go, no, I just want the comedies. And you go, comedy's great, but how about a little bit of drama? Because America has a bad history. And we need to know the history so we don't repeat that history. As an Iranian American, I used to always complain about how you don't learn in America. We don't learn a lot about America's involvement with other countries, like Iran, overthrowing a democratically elected leader in 1953, like in South America, like in other parts of the world, our involvement. We don't learn about that. But I never thought that we were gonna be so averse to learning about our own history within our own country, which is all of the horrible things that were done to people of color throughout our history. And we should know that. And that doesn't make white people bad. It just means let's know our history. And so you've got these people who've really gotten their constituents to think that they're fighting for them by going after CRT. And I'm surprised she even knew how to get those letters out. I hope next time she goes, have you heard of TLC? And he goes, what? The band from the 90s. Yeah. They were black and they were trying to spread propaganda. Don't go chasing waterfalls. What does that mean? That means white people go chasing waterfalls. That's some racist crap. I mean, that's just how crazy it is. If I were in Congress saying what I just said, there's people in her district who would say, that's right. Chasing waterfalls was racist against white people. So stupid.
Maz, if you wanted to, you could get elected. You could just do a pivot and get elected, like obviously mocking these people to their face, but telling them the ridiculous things they want to hear. That would be funny. It could be part of like a long form comedy thing, a documentary. Anyway, yeah, absolute nonsense. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And the fact that she got $184,000, I think, in free money from that same pandemic fund that she's pretending to care about the waste in. She just got that money, was handed to her, and she didn't have to pay it back. And that's not even a lot for a Republican congressperson. A bunch of them did. This would seem hypocritical, but it's not even going to be mentioned in any of this. So if there was waste, they should find it. The waste was not CRT in an elementary school in Illinois. Anyway, with that said, we only have another minute and a half or so, I think. Someone responded to a few comments before we close out this episode. Thank you to everyone watching, sending in super chats, becoming members. Samantha became a tier 2 member, much appreciated. Spiderween, he's been with us for 14 months, says hi from the UK. Keep up the good work, thank you. Carmen Marie, member for 2 full years, says 2 years of awesome news and content. Love TYT and AEW is way better. That's very funny. Also, to those of you listening on a podcast, I love when you rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Just bear in mind that sometimes we get messages like from Jai Saunders, who rated us at 1 star and says, by the way, Elon Musk is a hero. Only liars hate. Worst podcast ever. So if you'd like to balance that out with a 5-star review and maybe a message that isn't just a fawning declaration of everlasting love for the formerly richest man on the planet, then you can go to Apple Podcasts and rate us and review us. I know it takes a couple minutes or whatever, but it is actually really helpful in terms of making sure that people know about the podcast and all that. So thank you. Whether you're listening, whether you're watching, it is much appreciated. That is all the time we have for our first hour, but in the aftermath, coming up in just a couple of minutes, we've got more Maz Jobrani. We've got Fat Phobia at Nintendo Land. And while Diamond is gone, Silk is still here. We'll have that for you after this. Welcome to the Aftermath, everybody. I am John Iadarola. Maz Jobrani joins us now. Maz, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back, John.
Good to have you here. By the way, we have some questions for you. Jeff asked, I'd like to ask our co-host what he thinks of the attacks recently on Iran, seemingly by drones or something like it. I had seen like a reference to that in the news. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I read a little bit about it too. You know, the difficulty is news coming out of Iran is not very reliable either, just because they have, first of all, like you said, the internet is down. And then we're getting the actual country, the government isn't putting out news, and you can't trust the news that comes out of the country. I think what I'd heard was there was some attacks on I think they were related to nuclear facilities of some sort, because I think what's happening is they're saying that Iran is getting to the point where they actually can be starting to create nuclear weapons, which is not a good thing at all, because then they can really hold the world hostage, North Korea style. So I don't know. I don't know who's behind those. I don't know if it was Israeli attacks. I don't know if it was American attacks. I don't know if it was attacks internally. I think there's two things if you look at Iran, there's two things to look at. One is the nuclear issue, which is the government is racing towards a nuclear weapon. And then there's the human rights and not wanting this government issue, which is an internal thing. And I think if we as a world can support the people of Iran and put pressure on this government to the point where the government realizes that they cannot continue to exist, it can only help the second issue, because then we would have a democratic Iran that would be part of the world. And by the way, a democratic Iran in the Middle East could have effects all over the Middle East. So yeah, I would start with putting our attentions towards helping the people of Iran.
I think a good call, and definitely it's so hard to be sure about the news coming out of a place like that. Ed, I did move Grogan Webby, hopefully to the position you want. Frog Wizard says in advance of our next story, Silk should join with Mike Lindell and have the Silk Pillow Show. That's good.
That's brilliant.
Ged says, John, come visit New Zealand. Beautiful country and less beasties that want to kill you than Oz. That's funny. I would love to go and do that like Lord of the Rings trip that you can do to see some of the places where it was filmed. I'm a nerd. Count Otaku says, MTG is awful, MSG has better taste. Also, happy Groundhog Day. Guess what movie I'm watching today? Shotgun Wedding, I've heard is good. Actually watched it, was good. No, I'm assuming Groundhog Day, and it is a classic. Okay, let's see. One or two more messages. Dead in the Scene has been with us for 14 months on Twitch. Says, if I were to have a Dragon Squad name, it would be Camp Crystal Lake Dragon. Oh geez. Well, thank you for being with us. McBain has been here for 30 months, says, finally, I am a bit more convinced of Al. What we need is a Beethoven Al routine that composes a brand new Ode an die Schadenfreude. I don't 100% understand the reference. It might have been an ongoing conversation there, but thank you for being with us regardless.
By the way, I think Lord of the Rings I think it was New Zealand, wasn't it?
That's what I said. They referenced me coming to New Zealand.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, which is great too. Yeah, you should see both. Australia, you go that far.
Yeah,
I've been to New Zealand too. It's beautiful.
Nice, man. You are well traveled.
Yeah,
okay, no with that said, why don't we take a trip to the land of insanity? Starting with this.
Are we being poisoned through the air? On the last show that Diamond was on, she was concerned about something being sprayed in the air. And I agreed with her, it was something being sprayed in the air. And now my sister's dead today. So are Americans being poisoned is the question that we need to be asking, not about are you vaxxed or are you not vaxxed? Why are people falling dead and why ain't nobody talking about it?
So of course, Diamond of Diamond and Silk tragically passed not long ago, and people have been wondering what will become of Silk. Well, there's obviously, a continuation of a career on the line. So, I don't begrudge anyone wanting to continue on even after one half of your show is done, but also there's an absolute ton of money to be made continuing to spread insane conspiracy theories, even going to the point of spreading insane, absurd conspiracy theories about the death of your friend. And I don't know Silk or Diamond. It is possible that Silk believes the absolute bananas nonsense that she's spreading. I think that she is far too intelligent for that. I will give her the credit of assuming that she knows that what she's saying is insane. She just has so little respect for her audience and for the legacy of her dead friend that she will lie about what killed her. She apparently died of some form of heart failure. We don't know exactly why. She was a relatively young woman. What we do know is that she didn't die from something being sprayed in the air. That's insane on its face. But let's also be clear about why it's more insane. So the idea is that they sprayed something into her house. Who's they? How did they spray this thing into her house? And I want to make clear too, if they did, why is Silk okay? They sit next to each other. Diamond made a reference to smelling something on the last broadcast she was on. She smelled something. I don't know what she smelled. Maybe there was a pet in the background that farted. I don't know. Maybe it was an early sign of the health problem she was having that she thought she smelled something. I don't know. What I know is it wasn't a biotoxin in the air, because you'll notice that Silk didn't smell it and Silk didn't die from it. And Silk understands this. Their audience clearly does it. They should be able to figure all of this out. It is so insane, so disrespectful, so maddening, Maz, to say this in the wake of the death of your friend. By the way, I've been referencing that she's Diamond. She's Lynette Hardaway. Insane that you would do this.
Is it her friend or her sister? I'm a little confused. They're just friends?
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't watch a lot of their content, so I'm not.
Yeah, by the way, it doesn't matter.
It's terrible either way.
Yeah, but I could see the court case when Silk is trying to prosecute the perpetrators of the death, and she goes, "Your Honor, in closing, she who smelt it dealt it," and she points at someone who farted in the house and killed her friend or sister.
Yeah,
it is insane. But wait a minute, John. Perhaps Silk is right. Perhaps Silk is talking about pollution and global warming. The air is killing us, and these
true
oil companies and these conglomerates and these corporations are poisoning our air and killing us. So Silk has come around without even knowing it and admitted to global warming, and she's going to be on tour with Greta Thunberg coming to your city. Can you imagine that? You know what the problem with Silk and Diamond and all these people and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump and Donald Jr. and many of these people, the problem with them is that they have platforms and they have very little information, and that's dangerous. You just get a link, you click it, you read it, and there's something in the air, or they have the conspiracy of, people that got the vaccine are shedding particles onto other people. It's 5G. Whatever happened to 5G? Looks like 5G came and went. Remember early on, it was all about, this is all because they're trying to put up 5G towers, and that's what causing it. So limited intelligence with all this information is very dangerous, and we're seeing it in somebody like this lady Silk, who claims that her sister died from a fart.
Yeah. So everyone's is confirming that they are sisters. I would argue that makes it worse to lie about the death of your sister. Why is that? I don't think that's better. The whole thing is.
She's not. Listen, she's in her mind. She's not lying, because in her mind, now I've lost siblings, and you'll sit there and you'll go, there's a lot of emotions going on, right? So I need a reason. You need a reason. Sometimes a reason can just be it happened, meaning like, they got in a car accident, a tree fell on them. Random stuff happens in this world. But when you lose somebody, you're looking for a reason. And when the unfortunate thing here is that she can't trust whoever did the autopsy or the doctors were that said it was heart failure, heart disease, heart attack. I don't know what the actual cause was.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, she's not willing to accept that. God forbid if somebody said to her, she died because she didn't get the COVID shots and she had coronavirus and she died from the coronavirus. Can you imagine the crazy lengths of conspiracy she'd go to with that?
Yeah, well, and related to that, and I have no idea. I'm not implying anything about the knowledge of it. The only reason we're covering this is because it feels like even in the worlds of grift, there should be some lines that you don't cross, and it's just appalling to see someone being willing to do that to make a buck or whatever. You can find they have write-ups, I think, on the Daily Beast right now. They have a little talk about this. She makes this reference in her first stream to the vaccination status of Diamond, but says I can't confirm or deny, something akin to that, for some reason. First of all, like you're solo doing this broadcast, you don't have to bring it up at all. And it's so weird that you would like broach that subject, but then talk about how like you're not gonna say whether she was or not. Like it again, I have no idea if it had anything to do with it at all. Either if she was or if she wasn't, if either of those cases had anything to do with it. But considering the weird toxic stew of conspiracy theories that her and her audience continually dwell in, it's so weird to just put that out there, knowing that people are gonna run with that, knowing that this isn't just about the fact that your sister apparently died. Other people's behavior will be affected by the misinformation that you spread. When you convince people to do things that are objectively unhealthy, that has consequences. We've seen those consequences acted out hundreds of thousands of times over the last couple of years. And so it's just a truly awful thing to do in multiple different ways with the platform that you're given. Anyway, with that said, there's more of the video of her. I don't feel anyone needs to see more necessarily of that content. It is designed to drive people insane and get their money along the way. With that said, we're gonna move on to another topic. This is a weird one, but it turns out that there is something like justice at the end of it. At a Sheetz convenience store in Ohio, an employee apparently quit after being given just 3 months to comply with a smile policy that they have. And to comply, they would have to get dental surgery. We're gonna give you all the details. This company, Sheetz, forbids employees from working with, quote, obvious missing, broken, or badly discolored teeth unrelated to a disability, and gives them 90 days to fix the issue. Rose, the employee, said the manager asked her for a detailed timeline showing when the procedures would take place and how much they would cost. There is no case to be made that you should require your employees to do this. But of all of the worst cases in which to try to force this on someone, the fact that this employee had lost many of her teeth due to domestic abuse by an ex-spouse, and then forcing them to deal with it with an expensive dental procedure on pain of losing your job is just absurd. Rose eventually just quit, said at that point, to be honest, I didn't want to be there anymore. Said that the manager was newly promoted and was handling this type of situation for the first time. Apparently, this policy applies to current employees, prohibits hiring workers with visible dental issues. So to work at a convenience store in a country where people do not have guaranteed health insurance, let alone dental insurance, and we'll talk a little bit about the stats in a bit, that you would bar people from getting this job because their teeth are discolored or chipped or, dear God, no, missing. Absolutely insane, Maz. What do you think?
Wait, I can understand if they said it's bad breath. Have you ever been in a workspace, someone's got bad breath, you'd be like, woo, you gotta go. Now listen, man, it's stupid. By the way, when you said Sheetz, I thought Sheetz was like a sheet store. And I was starting to think, gosh, why are people that are in the business of beddings and pillows and sheets such bad people? But I'm happy to find out that it's not just beddings and sheets, because the My Pillow guy, now Sheetz. Yeah, this is ridiculous, and the lady deserves to win a lawsuit. I mean, again, it's one thing to say, look, we're giving you dental insurance, and you take advantage of it. That's what a great boss. I'm giving you dental insurance. Take advantage. If you want to fix it, you do what you got to do. But yeah, you can't in this day and age. What are you thinking? You can't go up to someone and say, "Oh, you're gonna be fired because you're." And by the way, like you just said, the abuse thing is another issue, which is it's not like the lady had natural teeth that just hadn't been aligned and needed the teeth aligned. By the way, do they have some sort of, did anyone dig to find out if Sheetz had some sort of deal with a dental office and they were getting kickbacks?
I haven't seen anything like that. It's just,
you should send your investigative reporter, John. I'm thinking into it. I think there's a Sheetz dental collusion going on that no one's looking into. Yeah, there's a class action lawsuit waiting to happen now.
We're coming for you, 1-800-DENTIST. We're gonna figure out what's going on. In a minute, as terrible as this is. And by the way, they point out They maintained this policy during the pandemic when the employees' mouths would be covered at all points by a mask. They still had it. Anyway, they apparently just wanted everyone to get a smile when they walked in the door. I haven't ever worked at a convenience store. I've worked retail before, but I imagine it's already a difficult job. You generally are gonna be the only person in there having to manage a whole bunch of things simultaneously, being constantly worried about shoplifters, being worried about being held up at gunpoint, dealing with all of this for long hours, sometimes in the middle of the night. And now you have to worry about your teeth getting a little bit too yellow. Devastating. So look, there's been a lot of pressure. Oh, really fast, Maz, let me just give people the update. Insider had apparently already been looking into this, and now with this high profile case starting to get covered, Sheetz is rescinding its smile policy effective immediately, which you can give them however much credit you think it's worth them getting for taking this away in response to this terrible thing happening. In some ways, by the way, the company is a little bit progressive. They give 12 weeks of paid maternity leave, which is more, than some places do. So that's something. And look, I'm not saying there's nothing good about Sheetz or whatever, but this was just absurd, and it shouldn't have taken this sort of scandal to get rid of it. Sorry, Maz, what were you gonna say?
You made a good point about these poor people getting held up, and they have to have nice teeth. So the guy robbing them goes like, "Give me all your money." By the way, great teeth.
Yeah.
But what about, here's an idea. What if they gave everybody grills? Could you imagine if you went into Sheetz and everyone had grills? You go and, hey, why does everybody have grills? New company policy. We all gotta have the grills. Just a thought.
It's just bizarre. Anyway, I want to make sure that people understand some of the context of this. So the cost of dental care usually paid out of pocket by Medicare recipients. Average out of pocket spending on dental services among even people who have Medicare, $874 back in 2018. 1 in 5 Medicare beneficiaries use dental services spend more than $1,000 out of pocket on dental care. It can be, it can be really expensive. We're lucky at TYT. I have the privilege. We have insurance. We have dental insurance. My insurance had a bit of a mix-up where we had some minor change to the plan or whatever, but it was such that it needed to be updated with the dentist or whatever. So I got a bill under the old insurance, which wasn't working. So I got the full bill, and my heart almost stopped when I saw it. It was for a crown. I got a crown, and my stomach like seized up. I eventually realized that they had the wrong information. It's still gonna cost money, but there are so many people that don't have insurance or have dental insurance that barely covers anything, and you still have to spend a ton, even for simple things, let alone the replacement of a tooth or something like that. This is why, like, we did so much talking about Bernie Sanders' plan to expand coverage of dental care under Obamacare, and that was considered too radical, too extreme in America, that we should have teeth that we can maintain. We live in a backwards country. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple comments, and then we want to end on maybe a topic that's going to produce a bit of debate in the chat. I saw a little bit of already. Oh my God, Alex Ward said my crown bill was $8,000. Okay, mine was not that bad, but it was bad. Jesus. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple comments, and then we're gonna jump into our last topic. Sailor Digurin says McCarthy claims he can't deprive Greene or Gosar from their committees because they were voted in by their constituents, but he can force out Dems. 100%. Well, he says that explicitly about Santos. So it looks like he can take some people out of their committees. By the way, we didn't have time to get into it. So their big claim to why Ilhan Omar needed to be thrown off of her committee was that she had sent that tweet back in 2019 of it being all about the Benjamins, which totally understand if people say that that plays into anti-Semitic stereotypes or whatever. She says that she wasn't familiar with those. You can evaluate whether you think that's likely or not. I think that this is a complicated situation because there obviously are a lot of anti-Semitic stereotypes, and stuff about money and controlling things behind the scenes is definitely one of those. That said, there's almost no public acknowledgement of the corrosive impact of money in politics, especially lobbyists. So I feel like we kind of need to talk about that. That said, regardless of whatever your position is on that, McCarthy has sent tweets saying that people like George Soros are literally buying elections. He said literally buying elections. So if the idea is that she needs to get booted off because she was playing into these stereotypes of Jewish people and money, McCarthy has done that exact same thing. Donald Trump has said those exact same things. So this is at the very least, wildly hypocritical. And with that said, let's jump into our last story. That is a little bit of video of Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood. I haven't been there. Apparently it's not open to the public yet. It looks lovely if you're into Nintendo, and I'm sure with the Super Mario movie coming out this year, people will be interested in it. But even before that's happening, before that's really possible, they have a bit of a scandal in their hands. People are saying that one of their rides, the Mario Kart ride, is, in their words, blatantly fat phobic. You can see a shot here of what that ride actually looks like. The basic idea is you're gonna get into one of these carts, you're gonna have a VR headset on, you get to go through some of the actual tracks from the many Mario Kart games. The issue is that the carts that you get into have a waist restriction of 40 inches, which some people are saying is not inclusive enough. You are literally sizing people out of this ride. One tweet, Anna says, we discussed how at the biggest I would not have been able to fit on Mario Kart. A 40-inch waistline is about a size 20. Are you freaking kidding me? It's a dark ride. And they have this like test cart out front that you can sit in to see if you will be able to fit into it. So look, here's the thing. Obviously there has to be a size to the carts. At a certain point, whatever size it is, will size people out. The issue is when you look at what 40 inches actually is, and then you ask maybe the question, what percentage of people are that size or larger? It might be a lot more than you think. So according to data compiled by Healthline, this is graphic 6 by the way, the waistline requirement is not far off at all from the average waistline for Americans. Healthline found that the average woman in the US had a waistline of 38.7 inches, so a little bit under it, while men had an average waistline of 40.2 inches. Literally, the average American man would technically not fit into this ride. So again, like there's a general conversation you can have about, does this count as fat phobia? Everything I guess has a size, but it's set at a point where we're not talking about the trend going forward of what people's waistlines are gonna be. Right now, it already opts a lot of people out of it. And so just from a purely business position, it seems like a weird decision, a weird place to have put that. Maz, what do you think?
First of all, I just want to comment real quickly what you were talking about, the Ilhan Omar and the people on the right. They also supported the people that were marching and saying Jews will not replace us. So even more hypocrisy. Going to the Mario Kart thing, you're right, business wise, what are they thinking? I mean, I've been to amusement parks. There's a lot of big people at amusement parks. You would think that they would have thought about this and created a bigger waistline. Maybe there's some sort of explanation saying, for example, if we made it too big, then smaller people, the seatbelt wouldn't be tight enough. I don't know exactly what that is.
Interesting.
The other issue that comes to mind though is that how unhealthy we are as a country, and I don't know what those waistlines equate into in terms of weight and unhealthiness, but we know we're not a healthy country. We have a lot of obesity. And wouldn't it be amazing if the Mario Kart scandal of 2023 led to a movement to make this a healthier country? Just eat right and exercise and you can fit into Mario Kart. That's it.
Sure. Look, obviously that's overall good advice. But there are a lot of people with a lot of different life circumstances and a lot of different medical conditions. And the reality is that a lot of people, as of right now, at least won't fit into. Like I don't know for sure that I would fit into it, honestly. Like I don't want to check right now because I don't need that on my mind. But I'm not 100% sure that I would. I don't. It seems like I probably would have made that a little bit bigger. And I know what people are saying. Like if you're too short, there are some rides you can't get on. If you're too tall, you can't get into some rides. And this is not just a thing with Universal Studios or whatever. It is the rare time on a plane in which my knees are not literally ground into the back of a seat. They're not made for legs my length. So the world in a lot of ways is not fit for everyone. But this is a place that is supposed to appeal to as many people as possible. So some people are saying the seats might be designed more for kids, but they know that adults are gonna be on it. Some people are saying maybe it was designed in Japan. I have no idea if that's true. It doesn't seem like the best place. Like it doesn't seem like this is where they should have landed on it, but who knows?
Yeah, they fumble. You're right.
I'm gonna end on this. Ganja Goddess Dragon says, John, your pants should say your waist size. No, I'm aware of that. I'm not checking. Anyway, final point, Maz.
I was saying I agree with you 100%. They fumbled on that. No matter what happened, there was somebody who clearly did not. If nothing else, how about doing a demographic of your own, your own constituent, your own. I keep not constituent, but your customers. Yeah. To see, generally speaking, what's that average waist size? They'll have to fix it somehow. I don't know how, but they'll have to fix it.
Yeah. So, well, I want to thank you, Maz, for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. I know you're really busy on tour. Where are the next couple of places that people might be able to catch you?
I'm going to be in the Middle East. I'm going to be in Abu Dhabi, Doha, Egypt. Damn. I'm going to be all over there in March. And then I will be in Houston and Phoenix and Raleigh in the spring. So just go to mazjobrani.com and get all my dates there. Awesome. And yeah, that's it.
That's really cool. I love the travel that you get to do. And I know that your international audience must be really excited about that. Well, thank you, Maz, as always. Have a good one, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Everyone watching at home, thank you so much for being here, sending all of your really supportive comments. Apologies always that I can't read all of them live. I do read every single one of them, so I want to reassure you of that. But thank you for all of your continuing support, especially considering the way that politics has been going lately. It is much appreciated. I do have a bit of homework for you, and that is to go to our community tab on our YouTube page, youtube.com/The Damage Report, to vote for your community garbage person of the week. Brett and I are going to be evaluating those tomorrow. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.